At 0352 hours, local time, 3 Ukrainian FPV strike groups left a staging point near the Odessa coastline, climbing low over open water toward a single target, a newly activated Russian early warning radar station on the cliffs above Cape Fieland, on the southern edge of Sevastopol. For 6 weeks, Ukrainian reconnaissance had watched it being built, new antenna arrays, reinforced power cables, a fresh access road cut through the cliffside brush, concrete foundations poured deeper than anything else on that stretch of coast. 3 days earlier, the station had finally gone live, closing the last visible gap in Russia's coastal radar picture and giving early warning coverage all the way down to the waterline. Ukraine had waited for exactly this moment, because a radar station under construction is just a pile of steel and antenna mesh. A radar station that is finally switched on is a target worth losing drones over. The moment the station activated, a Nebo-M mobile radar complex stationed nearby locked onto the approaching group almost immediately. 9 FPVs against a system that could, on paper, track dozens of targets at once and hand them off instantly to Crimea's integrated air defense grid. The odds looked settled before the fight even began. 9 cheap airframes, each worth a few $1,000s, against a network built to shepherd interceptor missiles worth 100 times that onto anything smaller than a bird. But Ukraine was not attacking blind. They understood something about integrated systems that Russia's own engineers understood too, and had simply hoped nobody would exploit it in time. A network is only as fast as the slowest decision inside it, and every decision takes a human being a few seconds to make. The first 3 drones broke high and loud, climbing to 1,800 feet and pushing their engines to maximum output. Their radar signature spiked instantly, lighting up the Nebo-M screen like a flare thrown into a dark room. That was the point, like a hand waved in front of your face right before the real move lands. The loud group existed only to pull attention toward itself and hold it there for as long as possible. 30 seconds later, the second group dropped to 60 feet above the sea, skimming so low that wave spray blurred their thermal signature into the water itself. Engines throttled back just enough to keep their acoustic footprint under the noise of the surf. The third group held back entirely, drifting west along the coastline at a lazy, almost aimless pace, doing nothing that looked like an attack at all. Just 3 slow shapes moving in a direction that led nowhere important. At the Nebo-M console, the operator faced the same math every air defense crew faces in the first minute of any engagement: limited interceptors, limited attention, and a system built to prioritize the loudest, fastest, highest target first, because that is what the doctrine says a real strike looks like. Command authorized 2 9M96 missiles against the climbing decoys. Both missiles found their marks within seconds of each other. 2 drones came apart in bright bursts against the pre-dawn sky, debris scattering into the dark water below. A clean kill, exactly as trained, exactly as the manual promised it would go. But the 2 missiles that scored those hits were now gone from the ready rack. And the third decoy, still climbing, still loud, still demanding attention, kept the radar's gaze locked upward for another 20 seconds while the crew decided whether it was worth a third missile. That hesitation was the entire plan. The sea skimming group used those 20 seconds to close nearly half the remaining distance to shore. Wave clutter did the rest of the work for them. A radar system built and tuned to track high-altitude aircraft and cruise missiles struggles the same way every single time against something small, slow, and hugging the water. The radar horizon drops sharply at that altitude. The noise floor from the sea surface rises, and a drone flying at 60 feet simply stops registering as a drone. It starts looking like sea state, like clutter, like nothing worth a missile. By the time the operator swung the array back down to reacquire, the group had already slipped through the narrow gap between 2 overlapping radar cones. The one blind scene that exists in almost every layered air defense network, no matter how modern its individual components are. Inside the regional command post overseeing Crimea's western air defense sector, the picture forming on the situation map had already stopped making sense. 2 targets destroyed near the coastline, 3 more that had simply vanished from every screen at once, and no clear count of how many drones remained or where they were actually headed. This is the part of an integrated air defense network that no brochure ever shows. The software can fuse a dozen radar feeds into a single picture in real time, but the humans reading that picture still have to decide, in the space of a few seconds, which gap to close first. The duty officer made the only call the doctrine allowed. He pushed the handoff south to the next battery in line and hoped the coastline itself would slow the remaining threat down long enough to sort out what had just happened. An S-350 Vityaz battery near Balaklava picked up the survivors next, 4 minutes further down the coast. This crew had faced FPV swarms before, more than once, and had adjusted their engagement doctrine accordingly, holding a flatter missile trajectory built specifically for low, slow flyers instead of the high parabolic arc used against aircraft. 2 interceptors left the launcher in quick succession, and the lead drone of the surviving group didn't have time to react to either of them. It disappeared in a flash over open water, its wreckage scattering across the surface. The second missile chased the next drone toward a narrow ravine cutting into the cliffside, the same terrain feature that had shielded ground troops from artillery fire for the better part of a century, and for the same basic reason it now shielded a machine instead of a man. Rock breaks a radar's line of sight the same way a wall breaks eye contact. The missile lost its lock somewhere inside that ravine, its proximity fuse triggering half a second too early against nothing but stone dust and cliff face, throwing fragments into the brush instead of into an airframe. 2 drones remained out of the original 9. They no longer flew as a pair, and they no longer flew toward the same visible point. One climbed briefly, deliberately, to draw a final interceptor from a Panzer S-1 unit guarding the station's access road below, sacrificing itself in a burst of fragments barely a quarter-mile short of the target. The Panzer crew logged it as a confirmed kill, and moved to reset the turret, exactly as they had been trained to do after every successful intercept. That reset takes time, the manual does not advertise, and it was time the last surviving drone needed more than anything else in the entire operation. The last FPV, now alone, dropped to treetop height, cut its throttle just enough to reduce its acoustic signature, and came in from the one approach angle the Panzer's turret had not yet swung around to cover. A combat vehicle does not turn like a handheld camera, no matter how advanced its targeting computer is. It needs several seconds to shift its firing axis, stabilize the sightline, and recenter a new target inside the engagement envelope. And seconds were the only currency Ukraine had spent this entire operation trying to earn. The drone's nose camera filled with the base of the radar tower, newly poured concrete still pale against the weathered structures around it, thick cables running from the antenna array down into a reinforced equipment shelter tucked against the hillside. Then impact came. The warhead detonated directly against the shelter wall, and the blast tore through the power distribution unit feeding the entire array. The antenna mast itself stayed standing, tall and intact against the brightening sky. But standing and working are not the same thing, and a radar tower with no power reaching it is just a very expensive piece of scrap metal on a cliff. Within seconds, the Nebo M screen that had been calmly tracking 9 drones only minutes earlier went dark, and stayed dark. Ukraine did not need to flatten the station, and they never intended to. They only needed to silence the one component that let everything else on that stretch of coastline see clearly. A radar network with a blind seam is a network with a hole cut straight through it. And for however long it takes Russian engineers to rebuild that shelter, restring that power line, and bring the array back online, that hole stays wide open along the entire southern approach to Sevastopol. 2 drones lost for 1 power junction destroyed is not an efficient trade written out on paper. In the air defense war being fought over Crimea, it is an extremely efficient trade in practice. If you support Ukraine's effort to bring this war to an end sooner, leave a comment below. In your opinion, what should the next target be? Coastal radar sites, air defense command posts, or the supply lines feeding them? Let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.